Hi everyone. So welcome to the class of text analysis. In the last lecture we introduced the course and we tried to understand how text analysis has become a very powerful tool nowadays, because with the kind of data you are surrounded by, so in terms of the documents, journal articles, newspaper articles, reports, customer reviews and all, so we are flooded with a lot of data, and which are very, you can say, unfabricated and correct data. So if someone can use such data, then a lot of good inferences and correct inferences can be drawn, which can be extremely helpful for companies in decision making process. We discussed about what is text analysis, what are the text analysis processes, for example, what are the steps of text analysis process. We talked about what is text representation, and then we also learned about some of the things like how text analysis has been used in different contexts by companies. So today we will be talking about a important part of text analysis, which is called n-gram analysis. So what is n-gram analysis? As you can see, n stands for the n number of items we say. So n, so 1 to n, as we say n, that is the n, right. So it's a fundamental technique in text analysis that examines sequences of adjacent words or characters to understand the language, patterns and relationship. Now, why is this n-gram analysis a useful tool in text analysis? Because you see, when you have a raw text, right, so the machine would not understand it at all. So in order to understand, the machine to understand, a statistical inference or a statistical approach has to be created, right, which we call it as vector, right. So now, to in order to do that, right, n-gram analysis is widely used. So with this, what happens that you can divide the text document, or the text, into different formats. For example, as it says, let us understand the definition first. What are n-grams? Now, n-grams is nothing but a continuous sequence of n items from a text, where n represents the number of elements, words or characters in the sequence, and gram represents the word, right. So how many, and each gram is nothing but a word, right. So n items, for example, you can have 1, 2, 3. So let us say, if I say one word, for example, here understanding n-gram analysis. Now understanding is one word, n, let us say, gram is one word, and analysis is one word, right. Suppose I make it, let us say, two words, let us say understanding gram, gram analysis, understanding analysis. So I can have multiple combinations. If I have a 3 gram, for example, now trigram or 3 gram, now what we say, understanding gram analysis, for example, like that, right. So each word is nothing but the gram, and 1, 2 or 3 depends on how many you want to take. Now common n-gram types, if you can see, as I have said here, unigrams or single words. But the unigrams or single words, for example, if I tell you a single word, it is very difficult to predict what is going to come, right. For example, let us say, suppose I say he dash. Can you tell, forecast or predict anything? It is difficult. So from a single word to predict anything is very difficult. So generally unigrams are not used or very less used, right. But then we also have other mechanisms like bigrams or taking a pair of words. So the whole utility you see, for example, a pair of words, for example, you see here I have mentioned unigram, how are you. Now how is one, is another, you is another. So I have divided each word into a different condition. Bigram, suppose I am taking for the same sentence, how are you. Now how are and are you. Now suppose somebody uses a bigram, then what happens? The prediction, what is going to come after how are, is relatively simpler, because if I say how are dash, what would you do? You may say how are you, how are your friends, how are animals, how are birds, whatever you want to say, but at least you can predict. Similarly, suppose I say trigram, how are you, suppose dash, then you may say how are you doing, how are you living, how are you earning, whatever it is. So the common n-gram types that we generally use are bigram, trigram, and it goes up to n-gram. Okay. So first of all, understand it. N-gram, why it is used? Because you have a long text, for example, and the text would not be understood by the machine. So, in order to make the machine understand, a vector has to be created. So, which you do it in terms, for example, let us say, as I said, each word will be broken into a single element in a case of a unigram, or you can take a combination of two words and make it one, which is like a bigram, or you can make it three, and then what you do is you can do some kind of a, you can see how many times, what is the frequency, or what is the frequency of the word occurring, or it can also help you to predict whether how this word is, what is the probability of the occurrence of this particular word. For example, if I say, now in this word only, you see, let us say, let us take any one word, any one, sorry, sentence. Now in that sentence, how many times a particular word is occurring, right? So n-gram analysis is a fundamental technique in text analysis, for example. Now how many times do you have the word, n-gram is once, analysis is once, fundamental. Here you see, analysis has come two times, right? Fundamental once, technique once. Some of these words like is, a, in, we will remove it because they do not add anything to our prediction or forecasting. We will only take the important words only, right? So when you take such important words, you can see that some words are repeated and some others are not repeated. So when I say, when I understand the probability of use of the word, it helps me to, it helps the machine to predict better, right? So what are the applications? You can see it is used in predicting text, predictive text, machine translation, speech recognition. So I have explained it in a better way. So the key benefits of n-gram analysis is, it helps in text prediction and auto completion. For example, you see when you type, right, in a Google, right, in a Google search box. So when you write, let us say, text analysis, right, only you write text analysis. So or you write text, the word text. So automatically you get a lot of search options. For example, text analysis, text architecture, text for forecasting, text prediction, whatever. So after text, what is the next word that is going to come? So that search option is getting easier because the machine can predict it better, right? For example, India, India, suppose I write Indian or India or Indian, Indian economy, Indian history. So automatically when I write Indian, by the time I finish Indian, automatically some other words will come. You must have seen in Google. So that is how, that is built on this mechanism only. Okay. Enhances spell checking and error detection. Sometimes it might, it says, you must have seen, did you mean like, did you mean something like this? Suppose instead of writing going, or let us say India, you wrote IDNIA, suppose the spelling you typed it wrongly. So it will say, did you mean India? So it gives you a spell check correction or error detection benefit. Effective for sentiment analysis, helps in classification of the text and information retrieval, even helps in speech recognition, right? So and it is very largely used nowadays by softwares like Turnitin and all for plagiarism detection, because it shows you ki this text is, how similar is this text with some other text somewhere else. Okay. So these are some of the key benefits of n-gram analysis. So all these things we will do in a much broader way later on, but just for you to understand now. Now let us see a customer review example, right? How n-gram analysis can be used. So n-gram analysis helps understand the customer feedback. Now in this way, let us see, there is a review, the customer service team, the review is, original review is, the customer service team was very helpful and quick to respond. Okay. The product quality exceeded my expectations. Now suppose this is a statement made by some customer. How are we going to benefit out of it? Can we make any meaning out of it? Can it be helpful for us? Now suppose we do a bigram analysis. Now what are we doing? Now suppose you do a unigram, what will you do? Now initially you will break up into individual words, customer, then service, then team, then helpful, then quick, respond. So all the main words that you see, they will be kept, and the some of the other words, for example, the, is, and they are called stop words, they will be removed. Okay. So after that, as I said, the unigram does not help you much. So we go for a bigram. Just generally go for a, let us say, bigram. Now customer service, service team, right? Very helpful, quick respond, right? Product quality. So you can see here quick respond, there is a 2 in the original thing, but that has been removed. So that is why it has become quick respond. So this sentence will look like this if you make a correction after correction. Customer service team very helpful, right? Quick respond, right? Product quality exceeded expectations. Okay. Now, after that what we are doing? We are doing a bigram analysis. So, we are taking two words at a time: customer service, service team, right? Very helpful, quick respond, product quality, etc. whatever it is, right? You can also do a trigram analysis. Now, what is it? Now, customer service team quick to respond or quick to respond, for example here, but you can 2 is removed. So, it should not be there. So, quick respond, right? And product quality, let us say, exceeded. Okay. So, these are the trigram. So, you will use this kind of 3 words at a time. Now, what is the benefit? Now, the machine will look at how many times this has occurred, this has come in the, what is the occurrence, frequency of occurrence, right? So, there it tells, understands that it makes a good analysis that this, which are the key words or what are the most important terms used by the customers. So, that will help you in sentiment analysis also, that will help you maybe in understanding what are the important features of the discussion of the review, right? Business insight is that it identifies the frequent word combinations for service quality, for monitoring, feedback, categorization and trend analysis. So, this tells the what are the most important terms, right, which are frequently occurring and with what combination are they occurring, right. Now, product quality, quick respond, right. So, what are the combinations? So, Ngram helps business automatically extract key themes for customer feedback and improve their services based on the common word patterns. Okay. So, in simple terms, if you want to understand, Ngram analysis is nothing but trying to divide the sentence into some combination of groups of words which make meaningful, which gives a meaning, and that is later on used for better forecasting, better prediction of the reviews and all these things. Social media monitoring overview. Now, what, well, as I said, you have so much of data in the social media, right? You are flooded with data. Now we'll talk about social media monitoring. Now, as I had said, in the social media you have got lots of data, right? you know Huge amount of data. Now, can I use this data? That is the whole story, right, we were discussing. So, in text analysis, one of the most prominent data set, or you can say data that is available, is from the social media, right. So, social media today has become an integral part of the modern society, right, providing platforms to for individuals to express their emotions, connect with people, and also to give their expressions to their thoughts. So, all these are very important data, but the challenge is that the volume of the social media conversations can be very huge and make it very difficult to track, and extract some meaningful information out of it. Now, this is where text analysis, as we have discussed, comes into the play, right? Because this is very haphazardly arranged or very not very organized, and the volume of data is very huge. So, doing it on your humanly or manually is not a very easy task. So, the text, by allowing the machine to understand it and decipher the information and then use it for your benefit, is where text analysis comes into the play. And as I have said, the benefits are many, because text analysis tools can automate the process of social media monitoring, enabling the businesses to track mentions of their brand, product, so engaging the customers. So, all these are very important benefits that the companies can get through social media monitoring. So, nowadays if you see content or text analysis, say for example with specific tools like sentiment and all, have become a very important part of the for any business decision making process. All managers and important decision making people in the company, they are highly dependent, and they are depending on such kind of social media data, right. Now, one example, there are two examples. One is of Nike and Domino's. So, this case is of Nike, if you can see. Now, to improve its brand reputation and engagement with younger generation, Nike employed AI powered sentiment analysis to track social media conversations about its brand, competitors, and the industry. And by analyzing this data, Nike was able to identify areas for improvement and tailor its marketing strategies to go better with the target audience, right? So all big companies, as I said, even Domino's Pizza, when they faced a very critical issue that was related to unsanitary behavior, right? So Domino's Pizza used AI powered sentiment analysis to monitor social media conversations. Now, how are people reacting? What are the major points of conversation, right? And what are the most critical issues? So this allowed them to respond promptly to the customers' concerns and address negative sentiments, because it's very very important that you respond to your customer very fast and resolve their problems as earliest as possible, because that is the most important thing in any business, right? So this was good enough to improve the customer's trust, and Nike Domino's could save itself from that problem. Okay, so after understanding this, we how Domino's and Nike used this text analysis for the benefit. We can also see how text analysis has been beneficial for customer feedback, right? Now, it helps you to identify the key themes and trends, right? Understand the consumer's sentiments and pinpoint the areas of improvement. As we have seen in the case of Domino's and Nike just now, right? Companies can identify what the critical issues are and what are the consumers talking, right? What is their sentiment? Is it negative? Is it positive? What is the most important sentiment associated with the brand, right? And if they understand it, and again, just saying positive or negative is not good enough, right? You have to say what is positive and what is negative in that. So doing such kind of researches helps you to find out your pain points and create areas for improvement. Okay, this is a case study of Lenovo. Now Lenovo, the challenge was that maintaining a high product quality across various product lines, right? So Lenovo used key text, an AI powered text analysis platform, to analyze the customer feedback. The result was very promising. So it consolidated the feedback, identified the key issues, and provided critical feedback to the licensees, ensuring a consistent product quality and customer satisfaction. So these are very important. Nowadays, text analysis, as I say, I have been repeating time and again, that it has become a very important part of the data analysis, right? Data is no more only quantitative data, but it is largely and largely the text data, right? Now, what are the tools and technologies for text analysis? So there are two basically ways you can go for it. The first one is you can use some programming languages and libraries, right? For example, there are two popular languages that we use for text analysis. The first is Python, which is for text analysis, right? And the other is for text mining, right? Now Python is a very popular language, and it has extensive libraries and frameworks for natural language processing, like you have NLTK and spaCy. So they help you to for tokenization, stemming. Now you might not understand these words at this moment, but don't worry, I'll explain you in the forthcoming slides on classes. So that means what? They will try to correct or reduce the unnecessary words, remove the unnecessary words. You only keep useful ones and try to understand and classify the words. So many, all the activities that we have discussed in the last class or before that, when we have discussed what are the objectives of text analysis, all this is easily done with the help of Python. Okay, it's a programming language, right? And it is open source. Similarly, R also is an open source one, and it is also popularly used for basically researchers who are only and only into, let's say, data analysis. They love, and people who are thinking more than statistical analysis, right? They go for generally Python. So it is your choice, whatever you go, doesn't matter whether you go for Python, you go for R, but both are improving at a very fast pace because the is a open source and there is a constant improvement going on. People are contributing to these languages and their libraries are being created, and these libraries are developing very fast. Okay, but if you are not a programmer, you don't know programming, like I am not very good at programming, right? So how do you do then there are other ways also. So cloud based platforms which are subscription based. Okay, now these are something which are going to help you because they take some subscription, some fees from you, and they help you in your text analysis job, right? So, Google Cloud Natural Language API, application programming interface, this is one, and then you have something like Amazon Comprehend, right. Now, the Google Cloud one, this API provides you pre-trained models, right? Pre-trained models for sentiment analysis, entity recognition. So, you remember named entity recognition, where the names and all things will be separated, content classification and syntax analysis. Similarly, same thing for Amazon Comprehend. So, this also gives similar kind of results, or it helps you for text analysis, and these are both cloud based platforms, right. So, they have their own benefits. So, if you do not, you are not very good at programming, do not worry at all. So, people think that text analysis, content analysis only for those who are experts in programming. No, nothing like that, nothing like that. So, a person like you and me who are not very good at programming also can do the same job, draw the same kind of inferences. Yes, then there you might have to pay, but if you do not want to pay, then you have to learn like me. You have to also, at this age, you have to learn about how to do some programming, right. But it is not very difficult, neither the programming part is difficult, and this is not at all, because you can easily go for the subscription based. Okay. Some text analysis softwares which are used, as I had said, during the I think Lenovo or some case which I talked about, key text, right. So, key text, monkey learn and Lexalytics are some of the popular text analysis software, right. So, which are used by businesses, right, and they have their own uses for entity extraction, sentiment analysis. So, everywhere they are used, and they have their own benefits. So, whichever one wants to use can. So, nothing like that. Now, most important thing when you talk about text analysis, choosing the right tool, right. For example, as we are talking about data analysis processes, so we said in a data analysis, once you have collected the data, then what is the right tool, right. So, you have to understand that. So, choosing the right tool is a very important task in any research, right. So, it can depend on various issues. For example, your choosing the tool may depend on your specific need. So, what do you need actually, right. So, whether you need to only classify the data, or you need to only understand the sentiment. So, what is your need basically? You want to see which topics are being discussed largely, alright. So, what is your objective of your study, right. So, need of your study is the starting point. So, as we said also, problem identification and need is very important. So, according to your need, you may to choose your tools. Okay. Similarly, what is your type of text data? Now, considering the volumes today, let us say you have small data sets, you have huge volumes of data, right. So, accordingly also you can choose your tool. For example, GPUs are used for high or huge volume data, right. So, this is something that you have to think, right. And also what kind of desired customization you are looking at. So, evaluate whether you need pre-built solutions or the flexibility to customize your text analysis tools. So, what kind of customization you require, accordingly also your tool will vary. So, all these things are very important from a business perspective, because the company can look at the need and the type of data and the amount of customization it requires, and then go for the selection of the tool, right. The next thing that we are talking about is the data collection. Now, data collection is the one of the most important things in any research, but especially we have some understanding, at least in the quantitative side. So, we know how to collect data, but in case of text analysis, data collection is still an untapped area. There is a lot of learning to be done, right. How do I collect the data? Because I can't go on taking a paragraph and copying it into a Word file. I can't do that, right. So, I have lots of data. You can do that process also, but that is a very time consuming process, and you might not get the right information. So, suppose for example, you want to take the feedbacks, reviews of people. You can copy paste the reviews, I do not say, or you can take the opinion of people and copy and paste in a Word file. You can do that, but that will not help your job, right. So, how do you collect the data is the challenge, right. So, for that we use web scraping. Now, web scraping, now the web, we know, understand the word web, right. So, web scraping or harvesting the web's textual bounty, right. So, the web has got immense or huge and huge volumes of data. How do we, if we can scrap or can extract it from there, then we rich with data. then we have, we are automatically will become rich, because we don't have to go anywhere, collect the data, we don't have to do any manual spending of time and taking pain and all. We can easily collect the data at one go. But the question is, how would you do the web scraping? How would you extract the data from the web, right? So here there are 4 points, right? The first it says is send HTTP requests. Now, web scraping tools send HTTP requests to target websites. So, suppose your target website, whatever is your topic, let us say of research. For example, you are doing on economy, you are doing on you know machines, you are doing on, let us say, Internet of Things, or whatever is your topic. So, the web scraping tool will send the HTTP request to target websites, mimicking a browser's behavior. What it does basically, for example, you can write a program through Python or R, or you can use also tools like Apify, which is a web scraping tool. Now, they help you to extract this data. So, they will, through this tools, you can send your HTTP request and then retrieve the HTML content. The website server responds by sending the page's HTML content to the scraping tool. So, either the scraping tool is Apify or a Python written through a Python programming, is up to you. So, next what it does is, once it retrieves the HTML content, then it parses and extracts the data. That means it tries to in one way extract the data in a meaningful way, right. So, it helps you to, as per your programmed criteria, it will get the data and then store it and analyze it, right. So, this data is finally going for analysis, and then after the analysis you draw your inference. But please remember, there are some ethical considerations when in web scraping. Now, what are the ethical considerations? Now, you need to respect the website's guidelines. You have to adhere to the website's guidelines, right, and that is done through respectrobots.txt. So, and which part should not be accessed by the scrappers is very clearly mentioned. So, you should not be crossing that line. Then manage the crawl rate. So, control the frequency of requests to avoid overloading the target servers, right. It is not good. And also, please ensure the comply with the website's terms and conditions, right, because there are some legal requirements which we should not be violating. So, there are some ethical issues which you should always be looking at when you are trying to collect data from the web. Now, what is API or application programming interface, and what are the rules and protocol? Let us say. So, basically, APIs are mechanisms that enable two software components to communicate with each other. So, that is the basically the most important thing, right. So, when you are trying to extract the data from the web, you are not doing it manually. So, you are sending a request, and then after the request is sent, so they send you the HTML content. That is how it happens. Okay. So, API is basically the mediator, you can say, or the basically, if you see this picture, right, it will give you a more clearer idea. So, suppose you are the end user with the browser, right, you send a request, right. The API will take the request and pass it on to the server backend system, okay, and from there the response is generated. It is similar to a hotel. If you see, now there is a customer and he gives an order, right, to the waiter, who is nothing but the API. So, this was very nicely described by this source. I took it from this source, you can see this. And this waiter now delivers the order to the chef, right. The chef makes the product, whatever the meal or the item, and brings it from the waiter brings it from the kitchen and delivers to the customer. So, whatever job the waiter is doing here is actually the job that the API does, right. So, the API basically has three functions: standardized access, security and authentication, and structured integration. So, it provides you consistent structured data access with reliable integration pathways and making it more dependable than web scraping methods only, right. And in terms of security and authentication, it requires proper authentication protocols. So, offering secure access to non-public data, right, because sometimes you may get into legal challenges, legal problems. So, that it takes care of that security and authentication issues, and delivers data in most organized and structured formats. That are very important, because otherwise if you get the data in a very unstructured format, you will go mad, you will not be able to understand anything out of it. Okay. Now, what are the publicly available data sets? So publicly available data sets are basically something like, they are the mines, the data mines, and they are treasure of information. So basically you have government data, research institutions, open data initiatives, right? So where, for example, all these are as it is mentioned here, right? So research institutions keep publishing their research work. Government research, public says their economic, public data, and all these things which can be made public, right? So these are the important treasures of information, and you can use this information to read better and to understand better, maybe to also make better inferences, right? Or matching to your objectives, you can draw inferences. So leveraging publicly available data sets, so identify relevant sources. The first thing is that you have to do is identify the relevant sources. What are the relevant sources? So until unless you can search better, you will not get the data. So identifying the relevant source and then evaluating the data quality. Once you see the relevant source, then you check for the data quality. Now whether the data is accurate, complete, and reliable or not, those things have to be checked. You can make it random check or something, right? And then understand the usage rights, how review the terms of use, licenses, because that's the ethical part, right? Because if you should not violate these things. Research papers are also important data sources. So you may identify relevant papers, access their full text articles, extract the key information out of that. For example, what methodologies the author has used, what are the key findings of the paper, and then you may synthesize and analyze them, right? So if you are a researcher, this is also a very important thing for you, because it helps you in the first beginning of your research. If you do this exercise, it will help you to understand what researchers are going on in the area of interest, right? But there are challenges also in extracting data sets from data from research papers. For example, the format variability. So papers come in various formats, PDF, HTML, etc. So that is something, but that can be handled, not a big deal. Jargon and specialized language. So field specific terminology can complicate automated understanding. So certain jargons are more related to a particular area, for example in computer science or let's say biosciences. So that complicacy will be there in research papers. Then structures, complex structures, for example papers often have intricate layouts, tables and figures, so which might be difficult for you to separate or understand. And then you have copyright issues also, usage restrictions also. So all these are the different challenges associated with the research papers. Now as I had said, what were the tools for effective data collection? So finally we'll just understand that. So programming languages, R and Python, web scraping libraries, you have, as I said, Apify and all. And then you have no code solutions, for example tools like Octoparse allow data collection without programming knowledge, right? So you don't need any coding here, so you can also get it directly. Then once you have got the data, the second part of the story is to clean the data, as because for any data, be it a primary study, secondary study, quantitative data, non-quantitative data, data cleaning is a must. Okay, so you have to check for data quality, consistency of the data, how efficient the data is, right? Clean data reduces your processing time and unnecessary challenges, right? And you can draw meaningful insights. So data cleaning is very important, and we will do all of these things in the coming week, right? Coming classes. The first thing when you talk about data cleaning, so if I talk about data cleaning, the first thing that I have to do is start with removing the irrelevant characters. If you remember when I was talking about n-gram analysis, I said there are some terms, some words which are irrelevant in nature. So we don't want them, they are not useful for us. So we have to remove them. So you have to understand what to remove, right? For example, you can remove punctuation marks, special characters, extra white spaces. So you have given some white spaces are there. So remove them, right? What are the benefits? Your data size is reduced, algorithms efficiency increases, and there is a text consistency, right? Now, for example, you see before and versus after examples, right? So this one is hello. There are some exclamation marks, world at the rate, something, right? Now all these are unnecessary. There are punctuation marks and some special characters which are not required at all. After cleaning, what does it look like? Hello world. Okay. Before, user underscore name and 1 2 3. Now after this, how does it look after cleaning? Username 123. So the data size is also reduced, unnecessary complications are reduced. So now the data looks more clean. It will look more clean if you do this, right? Another important area of text cleaning of text is missing values, right? You might have a lot of missing values because people are writing whatever they want to, so in reviews or whatever the data source is. So when you have missing values in text data, few things that you can do is delete the rows. So remove the entries with the missing values. You may lose some valuable data, but then generally what happens is in content or text analysis we have lots of data. So the volume of data is so high. So if I remove a few, it does not make a big impact on me, right? But in quantitative data generally replace, we have a replacement system. Okay. Here you can also replace like quantitative with some default text values or text characters. Okay. So use a placeholder value like unknown or not applicable, right? So what happens is this preserves the data structure. Structure is preserved. So that place where there is a missing data, the computer would have not understood. So you put some placeholders like unknown or NA, whatever it is, you can use. Imputation, is it possible to imputate, replace the word with some other word? Now estimating missing values based on other data is called imputation. So it is more complex, but potentially good, more accurate. So data imputation is taught in quantitative data. So here also you can impute the data, but it is a time consuming process. It's a, you have to do it, and maybe then the deleting the rows or these things are not required, because deleting rows is only a last thing that you should be thinking of. As I said, if you have large amount of data, then you may delete a few rows, nothing significant. But if you have less data, you can't delete them, right? So there you have to do this imputation. How do you deal with the noise in the text data? Now noise is the errors, basically unknown errors. So first you have to identify the noise. So what is the source of that noise? So analyze data to detect the inconsistencies and all these things, and develop a cleaning strategy. So what strategy should I use to clean, right? Then implement regular expressions. For example, use regex patterns to identify and remove unwanted characters, right? And apply text processing, right? And then validate the results. So basically noise in text data are nothing but the irrelevant characters, HTML tags and all these things which are unuseful, or you in fact they are like they are not required, right? So when you are talking about text cleaning, these steps are very important because it will help you to clean the reduce the noise or clean the data. Okay. What are the text cleaning libraries? So you have a few libraries. For example, in Python we use NLTK, Natural Language Toolkit, for various NLP tasks including tokenization, stemming and lemmatization. So this is one library. Then you have spaCy, again in Python, right? So this is also a very efficient library. Then you have Stanford Core NLP, right? So comprehensive suite of NLP tools offering a wide range of text analysis capabilities. So these are some of the text cleaning libraries that are generally popular and used. Okay. So finally we come to the best practices for data cleaning. So the first step is you document your process, maintain the clean records of all the cleaning steps, preserve the raw data, always keep an untouched copy. So never touch the master file, keep it as it is, because if suppose something goes wrong, you can go back to the raw data. Automate when possible. So develop reusable scripts for common cleaning tasks, and then you validate it, right? Regularly check the quality of the clean data. So if you use this best practices, data cleaning becomes much simpler and more efficient. Okay. So in the next coming class, we will be talking about the other things, like we will enter into the world of actually text collecting and cleaning and then analyzing. But till then I wind up my class here. Till then, take care and thank you very much.